Hello and welcome from Emma. I'm Andrea,
Venga, Martina.
and this video is a reply to one of the questions we've been asked for our Data Your Job free chat that happens every Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. UK time, where we want to create a community for people to talk about their issues at work and together to find some answers. And it was a very interesting question, and thank you, sender. Very brave of you to ask that, and very brave to acknowledge where you are. How to apply the tools I am okay with when times are rough, how to maintain boundaries when work starts piling up and probably people are screaming in the background. This is something we all had. When everything is okay, fine. We are all okay. When work starts piling up in a crisis, in an emergency, when people get angry, how do we remain okay? Then this is a subject very dear to us here at Emma. It's a process. And we talked in our free chat, we talked about baseline. And baseline is that space where you are comfortable. So you're alert, but you are comfortable, relaxed. From 0 to 10, somewhere in the middle, if you had a scale, right? About 5, 6, depending on personality. When work starts piling up, all your plans go to hell. Nothing works anymore. Why? Because work takes center stage, priority, and people are angry. So we, as a community, when people are in contact, their nervous systems communicate with each other. You don't need to talk. That's why when you enter a room and people are angry, you immediately feel that. So when there is pressure, everybody's nervous systems goes higher up the scale to an 8 or 9, and it stays there for longer than it's comfortable. When work piles up, there is an emergency and a nervousness and an anxiety that piles up inside you, and it goes on and on and on, and it never stops. And there are stages of stress, stages of overwhelm, and then you go into burnout when you're done. Your systems crash because there is no more resources. Then you forget what you learned. And it's so easy because you get off the track. That's what where we do with losing weight, with going to the gym, with eating the right food, with everything. We have a time where we are okay and we're doing it, and when things get rough, we forget. And then it feels like starting over. We recommend having a set of tools that you practice when you're okay, so that when emergency comes, they come naturally. Setting boundaries, again, is one of them. Keeping and maintaining boundaries, it's a practice. And you practice it when you're okay. So when times of crisis come, it's a habit and you don't have to think about it. We have energetic tools so you can delineate your space and your boundaries, which is very important so that the emotions and thoughts and energy of others does not penetrate your space. We have other tools to discharge your negative energy. We recommend somatic practices so that at the end of each day, you discharge whatever you accumulated during the day. We are 80% water. Water has memory. Everything we go through in a day remains in our body. Imagine day, weeks, months, years. So there is a continuous cycle of accumulation and there is no space anymore. So how do you discharge? There are ways to do that. Somatic therapies, dancing, walking, grounding, a lot of things. You need to test those in turn and see what works best for you and put it in your kit list. And you need to create a practice, a routine that works for you. And that you can continue no matter what happens, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Everybody can take 5 minutes to do something. We actually have created a really 4 minutes first, 4 minutes dynamic meditation, which is very short and it goes like this to take you out from wherever dark place you are. That's it. That's what it takes for the nervous system to come down from 9-8 to a 7-6, which is more manageable. Sometimes it's all you can hope for to take the edge off so you can build some more pressure. And then at the end of the day, relax, discharge, and start new. So that's it for me. Uh, yeah, the work starts piling up. The work never stops. That's a reality. That's work. And you create your own boundaries, you maintain them, and you change them. Hope this helps. Adina, what do you think?
I think you're right. I think it's all about focusing on ourselves, isn't it? I would like to address these things with too many meetings and not enough time to catch up on emails. Because I love corporation, love meetings, people love meetings, quote marks. And I think it's like a disease. You have a meeting about a meeting and then a meeting about the other meeting, and you have these recurring meetings because people feel like they need to meet to just check up everything is on track. And one of the things I've done in my previous roles was, if I'm not needed in the meeting, I'm actually not accepting the invitation, or I say, look, I don't think my point here is valuable or my presence is needed. Send me the summary after. I used to have 2-3 meetings in the same time. That's impossible, and I wasn't so important. But once you become, that's another thing that is very tricky. Once you become very knowledgeable and you want to know a little from everything, you kind of can help everybody, even other people I was helping in their departments, although it wasn't my role. But because my role was somewhere in the middle of that, I wanted to understand how everything fits together, like in a puzzle. So I became quite good and knowledgeable. So then I was starting slowly to do other people's job. And then, of course, it gave me a sense of purpose and importance. But what about my time? I got to the point that I didn't have time to do my own stuff because I was helping everybody else. Okay, when you're a manager, when you have other things, even then you have to be careful of not taking other people's job, because if you're managing the people who are managing the work. You're not managing their work, you're managing them to make sure they are doing their job. But it took me a while to learn that, especially moving from a position when I was doing the job and then into managing the people doing the job. Initially, you said, "Oh, you know better." Yeah, you know better, but how do you want other people to learn what you know? If not, you will always know better, and they will always ask you, and that is codependency. I would ask, why is it needed to be in all the meetings? Is it your presence required? Do you know how to say no? This is one of the Q&A that we had I think it was 3 weeks ago, about how to say no. And I will invite everybody to have a look at that video. It's 1 hour, but it's very valuable information, and it's a lot of experiences and tools and tricks and tips that we're giving there. You can say no to meetings. I can assure you nothing is going to happen. People will respect you even more. They will know that you'll only come if it's important. They will respect your time. But this comes from you. Do you respect your time? Do you respect your limits? The boundaries that Andrea was saying, you know your boundaries. That's amazing. A lot of people don't. You set them up, you communicate them. Now, the hardest thing is to reinforce them every time somebody's trying to cross them. What do you do when that's happening? The same with meetings. For me, having meetings after meeting and not having time in my daily work for even sometimes even to go to the toilet. That was the first thing I did. I'm sorry, I need 10 minutes in between meetings. Why? I need toilet and to breathe. And I'm not doing meeting over lunch. So if I was having invitation over lunch, I say, sorry, I really need to eat. And it's not that I cannot eat over the laptop. I would prefer not to do it because I need my free time where I recharge myself to be able to go in the next meetings to actually provide the best service that I can. Because you become irritated if you go to so many. You cannot function all the time 100%, and you cannot always the time be creative and give the answer you would like, because and of course you go to the meetings. Who is replying to the emails? Who is doing the work? Well, after the meeting finished, and I had days like that, I had months like that and periods like that where I had to stay overtime to do the work that came before the meeting, during the meeting, after the meeting, and everything else around. I was like, this is crazy. I'm not paid here, and I'm not in a job that I need to do. It was still work. I wasn't staying to do anything else, but it felt, because I was in that meetings and I didn't have time to do the job, it felt that it's down to me to stay now to finish because nobody else can do it. Yes, but maybe I can miss some meetings and then I can do my job. So it's very important to organize your workload in a full day, in a full week. Where do you actually need to be, and where you can skip, and where your presence is needed, and who can take over from your work. Because if people cannot take over from your work and you also need to be in the meetings, something has to give. And you're the only one who knows that. And have a voice. People don't have a voice. They think they need to do it. No, you don't. You need to stay healthy mentally, to feel okay, and to be able to say no, and to clarify what is your limit. We all have limits, and we don't all have the same limits. I can work less than Andrea can, for example, sometimes. I just don't have the bandwidth. I'm built differently. I have other qualities. I have other things. She has other things. We're not all built the same. You cannot compare yourself with others. And if there is a culture where everybody just goes and they don't say anything and then they stay overtime to finish, that's a problem. You have to ask yourself, do you want to stay there? Or is there a possibility to change? People usually will go after somebody. Somebody needs to come with the idea. And I will always advocate, because I love that. I love to coach people on authenticity and vulnerability and resilience. I will teach them, be yourself. Be the first one who says, this is not normal. Let's find a way for everybody to be able to cope. We don't want sickness. No company wants sickness. People. They all have a problem with present days. How many people are coming to work? How many people calling sick? Because they can't. You cannot continue like that. And if you can, you start to become very unhappy, which means you start to reply in a certain way, which in the end, you're the one suffering for something that actually was created, right? So it doesn't work for anybody, for you, for the company, for anybody. So establish your non-negotiable, your boundaries, small ones, as Andreas said, start with small, or if you can, start with big. And always be the example in the room if you don't have anybody else who is doing that. Or maybe you do. Maybe there are people who are doing things. Maybe there are people you can ask. Or join our Q&A, see what we say weekly. Contact us. We can talk more about this in details. We love the subject. That's why we're developing the course, to talk about all the tools that we think people will need in order to prevent a burnout. Because the line, from my experience, is so thin. It's so thin. And you think, oh, it's not going to happen to me. Well, I saw the same. And I realized after, well, look at that. I'm not so special. I can do everything. And I wouldn't give that time that took me away from the job, and that mental struggle I had for months. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. It was horrible. But I didn't know everything I know now. I didn't know the tools. I didn't have them. Nobody was talking about it. That's why we're talking about it now, to make it visible, to make it clear, to talk about emotions. We're all humans. We all go through emotion. We're not robots. We all go through that. And I really believe there are ways to change, but it's a culture. Normally in companies like this, it's a culture where nobody says anything. Be the first one who says something. Be the one suggesting things. I started suggesting well-being session in my team, and I did it. And guess what? It spreads like a mushroom. Let's try, because it works there, so why not try this small thing? Yoga laugh. You go on the internet, you put yoga laugh, 5 minutes, there is an amazing guy who is doing the exercises. You're imagining a lot of stuff. And you laugh forcefully initially, but then you laugh and everybody relaxes. Do that in a team. Say, let's do this, let's watch the video together and have fun with this. Let's talk between ourselves. What do we do to cope with this? Do you all see the problem of this meeting? Do you see a problem in this company? What should we change? You have manager, you have people. The funny thing is everybody goes to the meeting, but everybody would like to cut the meetings to half. Everybody, but nobody starts with a bigger process or saying no to meetings. That's the first thing. So we can talk hours about this with examples and all, but we hope what we said helps for the moment. Please subscribe to the channel to see more. And if you want to talk into more details, specific questions, specific things, contact us. We're happy to share all our knowledge and everything that we learned, that we're applying now and we're teaching other people how to use. So thank you. Bye.